All right. Good evening, everybody. This is the March 18th, 2021 Planning and Zoning meeting. Call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock tonight. So do the roll call real quick. Chris DeRozier.
Here.
I know Bruce is not here. Jonathan, you here? I didn't see him come in. Alan, you're here?
I'm here.
Dan Breinhammer? Saw him come in.
Here.
There you go. Marion?
Yes, here.
And I know Christie's out. So I'm gonna seat Stan in the open seat, and Marion, it looks like you're gonna have your pick between Bruce or Christie, so I'll seat you for Bruce.
Okay.
All right, so moving on, acceptance of applications. We don't have any, right? There's already the 2 public hearings. So I guess we'll go with the first one. A is the text amendment application, addition of animal facility definitions and regulations. Applicant is the town of Deep River. Forgive me, there's a ton of stuff up here, so it may take me a minute to get to it. There we go. I guess we'll call the public hearing open for discussion on, okay, I opened the wrong one. For the amendment change for section 2.410 7B of the Deep River zoning regulations. Anybody want to make a motion? Does anybody want to talk about this? Anything? All right.
Tony, I'd be happy to make a motion, but would that preclude additional discussion of the
Nope.
amendment?
Nope. If you can make the motion to approve, we can still discuss it.
Okay. Then I would make a motion to approve the amendment to the regulations.
Well, so Tony, I
Mhm.
I think you gone through all, there's no public comment at all?
Not for this. Not for this one.
Okay,
It's for the
so you
next
probably want to close the hearing have a motion to close the hearing first before you act on it.
one. Oh, I'm sorry. There's 2 people talking at the same time, John. Sorry.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest you want to have a motion to close the hearing first before you act on it.
You know what? We didn't even ask for public comment. So you're right. Is there anybody? I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak on for, against, or there's another word, not in favor? All right, hearing none. Alan, I guess we got to. I'm getting off track here. So this is to close the public hearing for this one.
Yep.
All right.
Then I would make a motion to close the public hearing on the language amendment to include animal facilities and regulations.
Looking for a second for this one.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Stan. Let's see. Bruce is not here. Chris, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, Alan, Stan, Marion?
Yes, although I do have a question out of curiosity, which I should have asked last month, but why was wildlife not included? And all of a sudden, I can't find the exact words. I think a definition under animal rescue. It says this definition does not include wildlife rescue and rehabilitation services.
I think that's the part we're taking out, but I'm just gonna double check real quick. Residential district.
No, so
And the
that,
other,
that, yeah, that is a part of the new definition, that it excludes, it's right under their last line under animal shelter.
Yep.
And under animal rescue also, both.
Oh, all right, yeah. All right, we want to go a little farther with that?
I mean, my sense is that perhaps wildlife would include a slightly higher degree of public health and safety concern, that you might have some, some disease or danger associated with wild animals, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask one question about this too. Going back, I guess there's a difference between there would be the definition difference between exotic animals and wildlife, right? She's Allison Sloan isn't doing release, right? She's keeping them, so they're not really wildlife. They're okay.
Right, they're intended for domestic.
Yeah. Okay.
the only other comment is under professional animal permit, and it's a permit issued by RRARC. Could that be spelled out?
That's probably a good idea.
And otherwise, I'm in favor of it.
Okay. All right, so.
So I just have a question. So when you're saying you want to leave or take out the wildlife?
So real quick, guys, we're just closing the public hearing. We can still discuss this at the regular part of the meeting when we actually vote to accept or deny. I don't want to just
Okay.
trying to do this correctly. I'm not great at it either,
Okay.
but so that was that one. Everybody voted yay. Moving on to the next one. On to item B, text amendment application addition to section 4.2.1, allowing planning and zoning commission to identify and allow substantially similar uses. Applicant Deep River Planning and Zoning Commission. And give me 30 seconds and I will try and get the right one on here. All right, so real quick, Deep River Planning and Zoning Commission, they're looking to provide the commission with the ability to determine whether proposed uses are not specifically allowed or substantially similar to other allowed uses, and then proceed with that, allowing them to pursue a special permit. So is there any comments from the commission? I thought I had the wording available.
Tony, I believe there was a letter submitted from the public pertaining to this one.
I have that. I was gonna read that in. I have to blow it up on my screen here. So there was a letter submitted to all the members of the Deep River Planning and Zoning Commission, RE text amendment application addition to section 4.2.1. I would like to ask the Deep River Planning and Zoning Commission to deny the second item on tonight's town hearing as follows: text amendment application addition to section 4.2.1, allowing the PZC to identify and allow substantially similar uses. Applicant Deep River Planning and Zoning Commission. Currently, I'm just going to buzz through this if I can. I don't think it's too long. So currently, section 4.2.1 includes these following statement: uses not listed are prohibited. The Deep River zoning regulations are very detailed, being approximately 196 pages long. Plus, there are 9 separate documents totaling 20 additional pages, which define each zoning district and the permitted uses within each of Deep River's 13 different zoning districts. Zoning uses should be clearly defined in these documents. Current regulations which state that uses not listed or prohibited should be appropriate. If the Planning and Zoning Commission would like to propose additional uses, they should go through the proper steps to change the zoning regulations and definitions and add specific uses and not leave it open to any interpretation. These documents are very detailed for a reason. We want to ensure that all residents and business owners understand exactly what they can and cannot happen in their neighborhood when they invest in deeper risk future growth. A perfect example of this first item on tonight's agenda is the first item on tonight's agenda. Our regulations currently do not account for a definition of an animal facility, so the commission is seeking to add and amend to include that definition. I hope they also add which districts animal facilities should be permitted and where they are not. If a resident or business owner proposes a new use, for example, perhaps a 3-family residence or business type that does not yet exist in deep rivers regulations, we already have processes in place to modify these regulations to accommodate those requests. We should not stray from that process. I strongly urge all the commission members to deny this vague amendment and instead propose individual specific amendments at the time the needs arise. One commission member may believe a use may be similar while another may not. We should not make decisions based on one person's point of view. Defining those conditions within the regulations and definitions of terms will clarify exactly which criteria needs to be met in order to approve or deny any application. The commission member would be setting an extremely detrimental precedent if they make decisions based upon whether or not their opinion shows a zoning use to be similar, another when such use is not clearly predefined. The requirements of each use should be clearly defined as well as in which zoning districts such use should be permitted. Please vote no on this amendment. Thank you. Sincerely, Bobby Ginder, 137 Kirkland Street. Okay. Anybody from the commission have anything they'd like to say about this? And if not, I'll open it up to the public. All right.
Is that you whistling, Tony?
Yeah, it was me. Getting carried away over here. All right,
Tony, are you asking us to respond specifically to this public comment?
just to the, I mean, do you have anything you want to add to this?
I think I'd like to
regulation change.
get a discussion, but I think it stands for itself. I'd like to hear additional public opinion, but
Okay.
I think this is very well stated and deserves some discussion, but I'd rather
Okay.
hear more from the floor.
All right, well, we'll open up to public comment. Anybody from the public? If so, please state your name. All right.
Well,
Oh,
this is Rochelle Nelson, Kirtland Street. I agree with Bobby's statement, and I think it should actually, should be considered. The regulations are very specific, and I'd like to keep them that way. And my husband Eric is here with me.
okay,
And
And yeah, I agree with a lot of things that Bobby said there. Absolutely.
okay. Anybody else from the public? All right.
Hi, yep. This is Renee Chop,
Sure,
55
just a moment.
Kirtland. Oh, excuse me, Renee Chop, 55 Kirtland Street, and also an agreement that the regulations should stay as is. Thank you.
You.
All right, you should be able to present now, Catherine.
Hold on, John, you're,
Not yet.
okay. Had to mute you there for a second there, John.
Sorry.
Anyway, anybody else from the public? Looking to speak for or against, or just anything in general?
Yeah, this is Bob Ginder. I'm the one that wrote that letter. And the only comment that I wanted to say is I don't think that the regulation shouldn't change, but if they're going to change, there's a process to do that. And I just think that that's very important to have specifically what's allowed and not to have that flexibility that you could say, oh, yes, this facility is kind of like what we have already, so we'll approve it. And that one kind of isn't, so we're not going to approve that. Everything should have very, very defined criteria what makes it eligible for being approved or not approved. So I just wanted to reiterate that, we can certainly change it, but I don't think that it should be vague as this amendment proposes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Tony, Gary Clark here.
Hey, Gary, go ahead.
Is this just about the amendment we're speaking on?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Tony, I have a question. This is Christine Nucci.
Hey.
Hi. So if it was to stay specific,
Mhm.
would somebody be able to file for like a special, I don't know what you would call it, but like a special variance or a special request to modify it?
So I was going to back up. So in the prior application, we'll use them as an example. They came in looking for something that was very close to what we had in the regulations. And so what we're trying to do with this regulation is say that if something like that came in again, and we thought it was pretty close, they could apply for a special exception. And that special exception would come before planning and zoning and be a public hearing. So it's not like we would just, I could just go, yeah, I think this fits, a tower on top of the hill would be fantastic. I think that's close enough to the Piano Works. So it can't just be that simple. It would still come back before planning and zoning. It would be a public hearing. And
Okay, no matter what, it would have to be, okay.
if I'm not way off base, John will jump in and. tell me
Right,
I'm
so,
crazy.
so it says at the very end, if the commission makes the determination that the proposed use may be, if that make the determination, meaning that is substantially similar, not just, kind of alike, substantially similar, then it goes through a special permit procedure, which is a public hearing procedure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, as long as I've got the floor, just to explain a little bit about the intent, and obviously you explained about some of the previous applications where we were trying to hair split between a furniture store and essentially a consignment store, when furniture was included but consignment was not, and without this provision, we would have gone through a multi-month procedure of having to add consignment. And then perhaps we might have left out something else like an electric scooter store or something like that. And so just given the fact that there are literally infinite possibilities for land uses, and particularly when you get into various shades of retail or office or service sector, the thought was that the commission could be granted the latitude to determine whether something was substantially similar to something that was already permitted, but with the safeguard that if that was so deemed, it would go through this special permit procedure.
All right.
This is Bob Ginder. I have one more thing to say regarding that. When you make the regulations, they don't need to be that specific that says, okay, well, this store is going to sell books and that store is going to sell clothing and that store is going to sell something else. You could just say a retail establishment that sells product. So, your example there wasn't really a great example, because you could still have the regulations have a broad scope that is clearly defined what those establishments are.
Well, to that point, that's what got us into the discussion in the first place. Is we do have two different types of retail in town, and one is conventional retail, where you would assume that somebody would carry out a product in a bag, and the other one was larger scale retail, which we have defined as being furniture and appliances, and that's what, again, as John alluded to, led us to this discussion of, if you sell furniture and other products, does this qualify or disqualify that use from that district? So I think it's when you consider this in terms of, is it a similar use? Is it a similar use in terms of scale and use pattern, et cetera? Because we need to make that we need to distinguish between those different retails, because some is appropriate on Main Street and some would be appropriate in a larger industrial park. But we can't anticipate every nuance of that use. I mean, if somebody's selling a furnace, would that fall under the definition of an appliance? I think that the reason that we have a commission is to address the nuances that emerge with new uses and new patterns of use in districts. We can certainly be very specific and identify exact uses that are permitted, but you can never anticipate slightly different examples that come out of new business. So I think that's the latitude we're looking for. I think it's very clear in the language that we're not given the ability to allow a permit for a use which is not allowed in that district. It's just a matter of, is it a slight variation on it that may not have been considered?
Cool. All right. Is there anybody else from the public? Just to be clear, once we close the public hearing, can't accept any more comments. So if you have something to say, you want to throw it out now? If not. All right. Anything else from the guys from the commission? If not, looking for
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Yep, looking for, that's Chris, you closed it?
Yep.
Thank you. Looking for a second?
I'll second, Marion.
Thank you. All right, how you vote, Alan?
Yes.
Stan?
No.
You want to keep the public hearing open?
Well, are we going to go into discussion later, or are we voting on it right now?
Nope, this is just to close the public hearing, and then the commission will have a discussion in the regular part of the meeting.
Yes, we'll close the public. Yes.
All right. That is now closed. And on to audience of citizens. This is where citizens may address the commission for items that are not otherwise listed on the agenda. So nothing that we've already discussed. Does anybody have anything?
Tony, Gary Clark, 46 Laurelwood Drive.
Hey, Gary.
I'm just checking with John to see if there's any news on my complaint that I filed about 199 Stevenstown Road.
There is no news. I'm still waiting for final reports from wetlands, but I've got no indication that there was anything illegal or unpermitted happening there.
Right, but then what, and we don't have the cease and desist is not still standing?
The cease and desist from when?
Well, there's been one from the property for 4.5, 5 years.
So the last thing I'd seen was that the property owners were allowed to continue their wood processing operation insofar as it dealt with municipal, municipal brush. And we have so that was allowed to continue, and I've had no indication that they're doing anything other than that.
Right, if you look at the minutes from the inland wetland meeting from 2 months ago, Bob Doan is on record as saying that they're processing soil from the town of Chester from the Main Street construction.
Number one, I haven't seen a report from Bob Doan. Number two, that's a wetlands question at this point.
Well, no, because it has to do with him doing business on the property, you said, correct? And Chester Municipal is not Deep River Municipal.
Okay, I'll look at the minutes.
That's all I can ask.
Anybody else?
Yes, this is Bob Ginder again. I guess I'm kind of talkative today. I'm on 137 Kirtland Street. I heard a rumor that Mount St. John's had an offer or is being sold, and I was just curious if anybody has reached out to the Planning and Zoning Commission or anybody from Town Hall about any change of use or what options there are for that. didn't know if there's any movement on that at all, or if that was just a rumor.
I have not heard anything. I don't know if John has, but I have
I-
not.
I have not. I have not heard anything other than lots of people are asking questions, like yourselves. But I will add the caveat that our email system has been down for about 2.5 days. So if something was attempted to be sent to us, we literally have not been able to receive or send emails in a couple of days. So if it's real recent, it could be, but I've heard nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other audience? All right, if not, moving on to approval of the minutes, February 18th, 2021. Everybody have a chance to peruse these? If not, I have one question for John about this. John, were you CHA then, or were you had you made the change at that point?
What's the date? 18th? That was the day before we resigned from CHA. So we were still CHA.
Okay. That was my only question. Does anybody else have anything? Have they read through these? If not, looking for motion to approve or accept.
Tony, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Alan. Looking for a second.
Second,
Stan, was that you?
Chris.
Chris, sorry. So Stan, how do you go?
Yes.
Marion?
Yes.
All right. All right, looks like next on the agenda is regular business. Informal discussion, 60 Spring Street, subdivision and rear lot. Kevin Louder.
Hi, this is Kevin.
Hey.
So I provided a few documents. The number one was just like a summary sheet with some of the things we want to hit upon today. So we're just going to take you through some of the points we want to review in the site plan requirements. And then we'll go over our new plot plan that we drew up. It has a new division of the land. So we just wanted you guys to take a look at that. And so now we're going to move on to the second document, which is code with some of our statements and questions or responses in there.
All right. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read these real quick. So site plan requirements, 10 copies. It says that you noted that statement of use. We intend to create a rear lot with R60. So R60's own portion of the property so that we would construct a single family residence for a family member. And map requirements, 24 by 36 location map, shown within 1,000 feet. Site plan shall be prepared at a scale of not more than 50 feet to 1 inch and shall indicate the following information where appropriate. Noted. Name and address of the property owners. I'm just going to prove. Is there?
Yeah, so we had some more points just lower down. Most of the stuff we're fine with. Like, and then we just had some points like this one right here, D. What we'd like to do is get the ones that we don't believe apply to our project in particular kind of knocked out so we don't have to worry about them going forward.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have any open space, signs and lighting, utilities. Our project requirement be waived. Okay. So I have 2 questions. One's for John and one is for you guys. John, if this is an informal discussion, are we just kind of going through this to say we don't think you should ask for these to be waived, or are we trying to waive these tonight during an informal
Well,
discussion?
no, yeah, it's informal.
Okay.
I think the applicant would probably just like to get a general sense. This is informal is non-binding.
That's it. Okay. That's a little-
And anything, when the ultimate plans come in, you absolutely have the right to say, this is a little bit closer, there's some slope there, we really, think that erosion and sedimentation might be appropriate in that case. But to get some general, sense from the commission of the magnitude of the regulatory requirements compared to the magnitude of the proposed development, which is, basically a house.
But at this point, we're looking at just a subdivision and not a specific design for a house. I think what was indicated on the site plan was a general area where a house might go. So for a subdivision, there really is no requirement for sediment control because there's no construction proposed at this time. Is that correct?
That's right. Right now, we're just trying to establish that we can do a rear lot.
Right. So if and when you go to construct and you have construction plans that requiring may in fact be applicable, and we can address it then.
Yep.
So that's what I was just gonna, so down to this one is 592 professional reports. An accurate A2 survey of the property, and it says confirmed an A2 survey will be completed in order to avoid unnecessary expense. We ask that approval of the rear lot be contingent upon completion of an A2 survey. All of the conditions being met, as opposed to the A2 survey being a prerequisite. So you're looking for verbal from us before you do the A2 to show the rear lot?
We just kind of, we just want to get some kind of affirmation beforehand that we're not going out and doing a survey for a lost cause.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, if it was, I'm just gonna throw my personal out there, is you're coming in with 2 lots in open space when this could have been a cluster housing development. So, I mean, I don't see a problem with this being a lot and a rear lot with some open space, but that's just me.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thoughts? All plans.
Personally, Tony, I agree. I think it's looking pretty straightforward, especially compared to what it could be. And I think that I had taken a look at the revised site plan. I think that's been cleaned up since the prior one. I think it's a lot more straightforward. I wouldn't anticipate any. I don't anticipate any problems with this moving forward.
Yeah, and it looks good to me. I don't see a problem with this.
The one thing I note, in Tony, one of the requests was that you'd be waiving the plans being signed or sealed by an engineer or surveyor. But if you're getting it surveyed, if you're doing an A2, it will be signed and sealed by a surveyor. So
Right.
we don't necessarily need to waive that portion.
Right, that's why I was asking that part. Right, so they're gonna need an A2 to show the subdivision, and they're gonna get site plans to build the houses to you when that time comes, so.
And you wouldn't need an engineer to design a septic, obviously, because there is no septic, it's on sewer.
Right. Are they asking for a waiver of a site plan for the subdivision purposes? Did I?
I think probably the requirements are for the rear lot, which is a special permit rather than the subdivision.
Gotcha.
So something completely separate, not to be the guy that throw a monkey wrench in this for you all, but I live on Bridge Street. I'm right up the road from you guys. And I'm putting an addition on the house, and we were not aware that our house landed in a wetland area. So you're talking about making sure what you're doing is feasible before paying for an A2 survey. You should circle back around with the Wetlands Commission and see what they'll require of you as well, because as far as the process goes, they're part of the process. So I found out late in the game, delayed the project a couple months. I just don't want to see that happen to you guys.
Yeah, Chris, they actually have, there was a letter in this, looks like it's to Mark. Hi, Mark, we're in the initial phases of creating a rear lot at 60 Spring Street. Attached is a conceptual layout of the lot, as well as a rectangular area we intend to place a home. From my own review, I believe we are well away from the sensitive areas, but wanted to check with you to see if you had any concerns before we move forward. Kevin Angus is correct. The state has given each town a map of wetlands. You can find the maps online. Your property does have some wetlands on it in the rear towards the Chester town line where your building is well outside of the 100-foot review. Hopefully that helps you. Feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you, Mark. So it looks like Mark has.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Hey, Tony. That's remarkable.
Can you guys go one at a time, please? There's too many people. Just one. It sounds like Marion was first, sorry.
Having been a wetlands enforcement agent for a long time,
Yep.
Wetlands in the state of Connecticut are determined by soil types.
Yep.
And sometimes the soil types don't appear on the land. I mean, people think that it's all swampy, but it may be just poorly drained. And so your eye would not determine that it was poorly drained. So it actually may be beneficial to get a soil scientist out there because you may, from an engineering standpoint, want to know where the poorly drained soils are when you're constructing. So just don't rely on those maps. They're just so, the scale is so large that they're really not accurate.
Tony, Matt,
One
may I
second.
speak?
Yep, go ahead, Mark.
I've looked and used the statewide map, and that's what gave me the determination that there were wetlands in the back end of the property.
That may be, but they're not that accurate. That's all I'm saying. And it's based again on 25 years of enforcing wetland regulations in the field. Although I'm not a soil scientist.
At this point, though, we're talking about a subdivision and not a particular construction proposal. So I don't think that, you know, that they have a burden to bring a soil scientist into the project or into the proposal at this point for the subdivision, not until they're proposing to construct in an area that may or may not be wet. But I think using the maps is a reasonable assumption that they've got, land on which to build.
So I'm gonna.
That may be, let's just say reasonable people disagree on that.
May I?
If you're going to build, if it's in the open space, no problem. But if it's close to where you want to build, you might just want to do it. That's all.
So I'm just gonna throw this out there. Number 2, the property. The boundaries of the property, I'm gonna skip down. Boundaries of the property, we'll go down to number to D. Location of all existing wooded areas, watercourses, wetlands, stone walls, rock outcrops, and other significant physical features. Where appropriate, high tides, wetlands boundary, flood hazard areas, and they agreed that they will get a map containing the above information. So I think what they're looking for is if we'll let them do a rear lot, they will come forward with all the correct information.
And that would be fine.
Yeah. Am I
Yes.
overstating your case here?
No, that all we wanted. I mean, we will follow the code and do things the way we have to do them.
I mean, is anybody really opposed to this the layout that they've done?
No, I think this fits much better than the first one.
Okay.
Can you explain the back part? I can't really see it all that well on the computer.
You mean this area?
Yeah,
Okay.
it seems to be
answer
there's
myself.
2 different colors. I don't know if it's just the drawing not coming across well.
Hi, this is Hank Lauder.
Mhm.
So if you notice, there's a legend down below and it has I believe the red is the back lot. So we split the back part of the property right down the middle. So the lot in the rear would have that part and the lot in the front would have the blue section on the opposite side.
Okay, so technically it's only a 2-lot subdivision.
Oh,
Yeah.
I okay, I missed that too.
It's so far away from the wetland area, it's hundreds of feet away.
What's it?
They get lost. So real quick, so this blue is gonna have this front area, then this little strip, and then the
Yes.
big back area?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, yeah, that's,
And that left enough frontage for the rear lot.
Yeah.
And then some.
Okay. I agree with that one. I like this a little better. Anybody else? Okay, I mean, I think everybody's fine with this as a layout, and we'd like to see it come back.
Yeah.
We just had one other question, just because we'd like to do everything to meet the requirements of the code and of the commission. We were wondering if it was possible to see any recent examples of a site plan for a similar project, just so we kind of know what we're doing here, and we give you the best answers possible.
Yeah, I'm sure John can give you, the last couple that we've done. He has your email?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have him
I
send
just
it.
can't send anything to him right now.
That's right.
But yeah, no,
Go ahead.
we can figure it out. And I mean, any of the last subdivisions could have done that. I mean, ultimately, if you are going to get a survey of it, any surveyor that you would hire would be able to do that layout.
Yeah, we just like to know the process, so we're on top of everything.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get you set up.
Can I ask another question just out of curiosity? This lot, how long has it existed as one piece of, well, as one lot, even though it's big?
I believe the title search went back to 1925 when we bought it.
As one piece?
The section we purchased. But there's that's all I know. I don't know about the whole, when it was subdivided off of anything else.
But this piece was from 29?
29 or 25 is when our lawyer went back toward the title search.
And if it was just this piece, Marion's getting at that this is a lot simpler than it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can get your title search to John, he should be able to tell you that this is if it really was one piece in 1929, you can just split this in half with a very simple map. Just file it.
Oh, okay, I'll get that.
Tony?
Yep.
I looked into buying it as well. It was one piece and it has been one piece for many, many years.
Yeah. I'd say, I mean, if it was like that since 29, I would say so.
Yep.
And you're allowed a split?
Right.
Free split.
By right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So, but it would still be creation of the rear lot would still force them into the commission for.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But it's not a subdivision, so that's nice.
Right. Okay, yeah. So if you get that to John, we might be on an even easier path here.
Okay, perfect.
Okay?
We'll send that over.
Get that over to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. All right. Hold on a second here. On to item B, tailgaters, Rusty Rail, informal discussion. Is there anybody here from?
Yep, Robert Galbraith is here, co-owner. It says Joel, but I don't think he's on.
Okay.
So what we'd like to propose is hopefully live entertainment outside.
Mhm.
I don't know what the regs are, amplified and or acoustic.
Okay.
We had submitted a liquor application and it was just signed for what was existing at the time. So that is just about to be approved without the entertainment. We would like to amend it possibly down the road.
So you're just looking to add outside entertainment?
Yes.
Okay. John, you got any background about this in the zone or?
Yeah, I mean, there's some existing outdoor seating. I didn't see anything about outdoor entertainment being allowed in the regs that I could see. And it's neighborhood commercial? I'm drawing a blank on this.
I'm going to ask a question while we're doing some digging here. So how does this, let's take COVID, for example, here. It's almost practically given to you that you can do outside seating, outside service under this. And if you've given people who never historically had that outside use. When this is over with, can you take it back? Or is it something that we foresee way into the future?
So there's actually a state, I'm sorry, I don't know if that was directed at me.
Just in general?
There is actually a proposed bill before the legislature right now that would look to make, permanent those temporary allowances during the public health emergency. Because I think, many restaurants are finding it a really good thing.
Yeah.
I think one of the potential hangups was that during COVID, they allowed people to take parking spots that had been previously allocated to the main use, and basically allow them to get by with fewer than allowed parking. But again, that is, we don't know, if traffic is going to come back the same way after COVID or not. But anyway, that is being proposed, and it's certainly something that even in absence of a state law, that's something that each individual commission could consider making permanent. But that would have to be a text amendment to the regulations.
Do you guys have outside seating now under COVID, or was that not applied for? Or I'm not sure where you are in the process of reopening. So
I believe it was existing, is what we're going on.
okay, you guys are looking to make it permanent.
Yes, we would.
Do you know how many tables, seats?
I believe I submitted a map
Did not see that.
with the application.
Give me 30 seconds here.
Is there an application in? I didn't see any materials with this apart from the agenda item of an informal discussion.
Yeah, I didn't see anything either. I thought this, just for the informal, I didn't see.
Right, we have some paperwork. I don't think it would consist of an entire application at this point.
Okay.
I believe it was on the entire application, the original one. And then they said I asked if I would have to resubmit, and he said no, because they had everything.
Okay, so maybe Mike has seen the file that I haven't seen.
Okay, but this is just
so-
to get a feel for whether or not the commission's gonna entertain outdoor seating on this property, like what the requirement, like are you gonna require another site plan, that kind of thing? Right, I'm assuming that's what we're here for.
Do we have an expansion of the facilities at all? The physical facilities, lot coverage?
Does that go to me?
Yes, I'm just trying to get an understanding of the what we're here to address with this discussion.
Yeah, the discussion was just the trying to get the outside entertainment. Either amplified or acoustic.
Okay, and if I understand correctly, that would have to be approved as a special permit, just as the previous applicant had looked to open up this facility and indicated to be outdoor seating but no entertainment. So this would be certainly a change in the use.
So, if I could, Mr. Chairman,
Fire away.
so I guess this is a general commercial district, 439 Main. General commercial restaurants with or without, this is section 4.10.31. Restaurants with or without service of alcohol, in accordance with section 7B, and I'll take a look at section 7B in a second about specifics. Restaurants, I think is broad enough to a certain extent to recollect our text change amendment earlier this meeting. It's not clear if a restaurant does or ought to include a specificity about indoor or outdoor seating or entertainment. I suppose because it's a special permit, those details get hashed out, and you can determine if that specific use or component to the restaurant is appropriate at that location. That's pretty much the purpose of a special permit. So it's this is one of those cases where the exact use proposed is not specifically covered by the regulations. It's just restaurants are allowed.
Previously, the Tailgaters Pub had outdoor seating around a fire. And they had that Susan's Kitchen had seating out there years ago as well, with picnic tables.
So I'm just gonna try and go from memory here, but I don't remember that being part of the original approval, and I think that's what he's trying to correct. So,
It was an existing use because Susan's Kitchen had picnic tables out there.
okay. So again, we're gonna, I mean, we're gonna require them, is this an expansion of use? We're gonna require them a special permit? Looking for some input from you guys from the commission too. And if this, I mean.
So again, without seeing the
Right.
application, and especially side by side with the previously approved use in terms of the capacity and the extent of the services and the if there is in fact any additional facilities to facilitate the entertainment or outdoor seating, again, the additional lot coverage would be part of the review. The entertainment, I don't know without looking into it, but otherwise it seems like it's a basic continuation of the previous use. But again, the question that I would have is it of the same scale, same occupancy as the previous applicant had proposed.
Yeah, I think we're gonna, like, I think what Alan's getting is we're gonna need a little something more just to even kind of wrap our heads around what you're after here. I mean, you're just telling us and we don't have anything to compare it to.
Yeah, Tony, this is Chris. This is the same applicant, if I'm not mistaken, that we kind of went around in a circle about the appropriate parking layout and whether they had enough parking for their use.
Yeah.
And so I think if they're proposing outdoor performances, where is that set up? Does it take up parking like John was hinting at with some of the COVID stuff going on in the legislature? And I also know that, there was some public outreach in the public hearing about just visual and noise concerns. So I do think it's something we should study at a bigger scale.
I agree. So if you guys, I'd like to see something a little, to actually see something. We're just kind of trying to imagine this and I don't know what to go on here. So, I mean, if you could get us a map, I mean, you saw the guys before, even they just redlined it, showed what they're after.
Yeah, like I said, I did submit all that.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's down there somewheres.
Yeah, I mean, like John said, the town's been having some issues with email over it, and there was even an announcement.
Well, this was a couple months, about 7 weeks ago with the original liquor application. And then I sent down another map. And then he said that they wouldn't sign it. And then I got an email the other day saying that we want to have more of a discussion. And I asked him if the paperwork that I had sent in was okay. And he said, yes. The packet that he had.
Who did you have the discussion with?
So I imagine that was with Mike.
Yeah.
We didn't, I don't think we, if we had a map, I haven't seen certainly a full scale site plan. I don't know if it was sort of a sketch. And I think I've seen some photos that were submitted. I don't recall seeing anything that looked like a site plan that indicated where the the parking and the additional space, outdoor space would be. But and I we didn't scan anything, so I apologize about that. We haven't scanned anything to the file because again, this was a preliminary discussion. But I'll review the file on Monday.
Okay.
So I guess as part of a informal, what Chris was alluding to, as part of an informal discussion, the issues that came up and with the previous application, for tailgaters, had to do with, you know, the privacy screening for butters, which would certainly be a consideration, if you're gonna have outdoor entertainment. The parking capacity, with regard to the proposed use. So those are the types of things that we would like to discuss. So again, we apologize for not being fully prepared. But off the top of my head, I think that those are issues that we might want to rediscuss.
All right.
So how should I move forward?
So if John has this map, I think we would put it on for, you know, the next meeting. We can actually look at the map, go over that.
Yeah, and if there's anything that needs to be added to this to be considered a formal special permit plan, we can let you know.
Okay, that'd be great.
I was going to say it might be good to just have something in writing, not necessarily a formal application at this point, even just a quick, you know, is it going to be acoustic or is it going to be, you know, amplified? How many people do you anticipate? Is it, you know, kind of a coffee bar type situation, or is it going to be concerts? Just a better idea of really what you'd like to do so we can then respond.
Yeah, the initial was, the ultimate would be to go for amplified, which would be a 2 to 3, 4-piece band outside, which would be facing towards the railroad tracks on the rear side of the building. And then, of course, there are other options of just acoustic only. And I had submitted that, you know, decibel levels and, you know, the times that we would like to abide by.
And yeah, we would have to know that, so.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you apply for a liquor permit, that's a different process with a different organization. So it's not, it may be somewhere in the town hall, but it may not be in planning and zoning. It might be with the fire, not the fire marshal, but the building official or something like that.
No,
So-
it's with the guys that are on Monday and Wednesdays. That's who I gave it to.
Okay.
So they do have a good sized packet.
Yeah, we have a file on it. And again,
Okay.
I'm not familiar with all the details. I don't recall anything about decibels or placement of speakers and stuff like that. But again, I'll take another look.
Okay.
And because I think the trick is, and in the special permit criteria, you know, there are noise and other nuisance requirements to make sure that anything that you're placing outside that would create noise, lighting, odor, things like that would be properly attenuated so they wouldn't become bothersome off site. And again, I don't recall those details being submitted, but we'll take a look.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, what is your time frame on opening up?
April 6th. Well, we're still waiting on a liquor license and final health inspections. So, but the entertainment part, we're not even, there's no rush on that.
Okay.
Because we know that'll take a little time, because then we would have to amend the liquor license also, what's going to take time. So we know it's going to be a longer process.
All right.
Tony, can I ask a question? I don't know if this is open to the public or not. Like,
Nope.
I can't, right?
Nope.
I heard Mark say something, so I was wondering.
Oh,
Okay,
I thought he was here. I thought he was here on their behalf. I apologize.
that's okay.
All right, so with that, I think we'll be seeing this next month again. Unless there's anything else anybody wants to add or.
Yeah, Tony, I just wanted to say one thing quick. Can you pull it up on a map like Google Earth or something really quick, just to see like residents around it area?
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull it up on my own and I can't get it for some reason.
There's one residence to the north of us. That's probably 300 feet, 400 feet. And the rest is just pretty much woods and railroad track. And then there's one across the street, quite a ways away.
It already says Rusty Rail. All right, let me try and get this. All right, you guys see that?
Yep.
No?
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, there is a residence here. There's one diagonal across the street. But behind them is the railroad tracks and the industrial park is to the south.
Can you enlarge that?
Yeah, zoom in a
Yes, please.
little more.
Yep. Good.
All right.
All right.
All right.
So well, just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, I've just checked in with Mike, who's covering another meeting this evening. And he did indicate that the application materials for the liquor permit, as Marion indicated, seem to be sufficient for the liquor permit and those materials. But in terms of a site plan that would be sufficient for special permit exception or to modify the special permit, I don't know that we've got those site plan details at this point. But again, we can work with the applicant to make sure that we pull something together.
Okay. That sounds good.
A question. Is the Rusty Rail Tavern in the front building or is it in the back building?
The rear building.
In the rear, okay.
All right. So yeah, I think, like I said, we'd probably need to see something a little more like where you plan on putting them out back, and you know, as long as it's not taking any parking away, because I know there was parking issues there.
Yeah, it wouldn't be taking any parking away.
Okay. Yeah, just if we got something, you know, red line,
Okay.
I know what we're going after. I think we'll be good.
All right, we'll start working on that.
I appreciate it. All right, let's see if I can get back to share. All right, next on the agenda is informal discussion, adult use cannabis regulation. I'm gonna let John run with this one.
So this, yeah. So I was approached by an attorney who is working with a cannabis business, and there's been a bunch of discussion around this, and the governor's bill. The governor is proposing a bill to legalize recreational marijuana for adults in the state, which would then need to be sold at some venue and at some level. And so various cannabis companies are approaching various towns to find out what their likely approach would be. And again, this is one of those circumstances where our regulations do not, our regulations currently disallow marijuana dispensaries and producers. But should marijuana retail for adults become legal in the state, there's a couple of schools of thought. One is that because we disallow those other two categories of marijuana involvement, then we also would disallow marijuana retail. However, if it's a legal retail use, would it just be allowed as retail? Or is this something that we need to create a new regulation for before it happens statewide? So that's pretty much the question I wanted to put to the commission at this point.
I'm gonna just throw one thing at you. So in Colorado, when they passed, they let each individual, they're a little different there. So like Colorado Springs, they don't allow the sale, but the two surrounding towns do. So it's kind of, they did the same thing. So I think every town in Connecticut will, if it does pass, will probably do the same thing. Yes, we want it, or we don't want it. So I think John was saying, I think that's something we're gonna have to put our minds to. Probably be a public hearing and get the general input. Does anybody else have feelings or want to add or?
I have a, it's Chris, I have a question. This is just process. Is it really the process to get something in our regs to put a hearing together for the commission to act on, or is this something that would be something on a docket for the public to vote on? I feel like that's kind of a big deal to introduce something like that to the town for just the commission to be the responsible party in implementing the introduction of cannabis in our town at all. I mean, I'm just curious about like how that actually gets introduced and either approved or denied. You know what I mean? And again, I'm just curious.
So, I mean, my thought would be, Mr. Chairman, that barring action from the selectmen or town meeting, or basically the town meeting, if the town wanted to pass an ordinance that, for instance, towns pass ordinances to determine if they are going to allow liquor sales or different types of liquor sales. That's a matter of ordinance, and that is a town meeting, so a town vote. But insofar as this is a legal land use, or perhaps soon to be a legal land use, the zoning commission is the commission of cognizance for it. Again, the whole town could step in and say nope. By ordinance, we are not that kind of town. But insofar as they do not say it, then it does fall to planning and zoning.
So
I would tend to agree. Oh, go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
I would tend to agree. I think if we're addressing a legal use, we need to at least anticipate where the appropriate location or context for that legal use would be. For instance, we could begin to look at it. Is it a good mix in on Main Street in proximity to uses that are more prone to teenagers or children, and we might preemptively say that yes, we understand this is a legal use, but it may be inappropriate in this context, and we have other areas that certainly might be more conducive to it. For instance, do we begin to sell cannabis in conjunction with furniture and appliances? Just kidding about that, but there's other areas of retail that might be remote from uses where you would see younger children perhaps unaccompanied, but we have plenty of other areas in Deep River that are conducive to perhaps adult retail. We allow adult bookstores in town. We have provisions in our zoning regulations that define where that could happen. It may not be a town that's going to happen in, but I think it's been anticipated. If it were to happen, these are the conditions and these are the areas that it would be considered. So I think it's appropriate and timely that we address that and not be reactionary to a proposal.
So I was going to throw something out too. So if we did bring this up, we could also have a public hearing and then hold the public hearing open, an extra month. Because usually a lot of the time what happens, people show up to the first public hearing and go, I told my brother about this. He wants to come down here, and it'll be too late. The public hearing's closed. So you could do a public hearing, hold it over a couple of months to make sure everybody in town is fully aware of it. But I think we should address this before it's, it's already here.
John.
Yes, ma'am.
Does Casio or the Connecticut Planning Association have any, probably a brochure is much too formal, but any discussions on this so that we don't even have to necessarily reinvent the wheel, but some things we should be determined?
Yeah, no, I don't think Casio or Connecticut planners do, but I have seen some like brochures, or not brochures, like white papers and sort of guides provided by the American Planning Association about these considerations. I could pull those out and share them.
I think that would be good.
Hey, John, just so it doesn't vary one of our zoning meetings, could we do this as a couple of like special public hearings? You know, just for that and that's it.
Yeah, you could schedule a special meeting for that purpose.
That's what I was thinking, is just maybe do those a couple, you know, that way they're not, in
Yeah.
case a lot of people do show up, that, you know, they're not varying the regular meeting.
Sure.
You guys, anybody else on the commission, thoughts?
Yes. You know, I think this is a touchy subject, so I think we do need to go spread it out over a couple of meetings for sure. You know, just simple reasons is like, even if people are starting to grow it, where like that could make Deep River Farms very valuable now, especially with the farm stand selling it. So we got to really think about it.
So we can get marijuana at the farm stand, right?
Yeah.
It's already being grown in town as hemp.
Yeah, it's just the different usage there.
Okay.
So it needs to be discussed. I think at town meetings over spread out, so everybody gets a chance to think.
Yeah. All right, but we'll have to do that. If everybody's good with that, maybe we will do that. All right, so I just looking at our agenda here, it looks like we didn't.
Right, I was thinking the same thing. We need to add an old business for the decision on those two.
Yeah, so looking for a motion to add the two text amendments to number 8 under old business. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
All right, Marion, looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Stan. Chris?
Yeah.
Thank you. Alan?
Yes.
All right. So I will go with text amendment application, addition of animal facility definitions and regulations, applicant Deep River Planning and Zoning Commission. So anybody want to make a motion, discussion? Pull some of this stuff because I don't know where anything is on here. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, so on this discussion here, when we brought up earlier about the wildlife being excluded, are we going to keep that excluded?
Anybody else have any?
I would say that it would be appropriate to keep it excluded until we know more about it. I think that is something that would probably be have broader regulations from DEP, et cetera. You know, in terms of the animal facilities we're looking at, we're mostly looking at domestic pets and similar. So I think it'd be a broader discussion to begin to look at inclusion of wildlife. It's certainly something we could add, but we're not under pressure right now to include that. This does address applications that are before us presently, so it is timely. I mean, I'm not opposed to the inclusion of wildlife, but it's certainly something that I'm not presently prepared to understand. So personally, I'd like to see this move forward as it's written.
I was gonna.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Go ahead,
on my part, I would like to have the wildlife excluded because, you know, we have our wildlife around here. And if we have a rescue center or something and we bring in some wildlife from another part of the state or say out of state that comes into this and it brings a disease, that these are not vaccinated animals around here. They're wild. And it's different when you have pets and stuff that the homeowners have their pets vaccinated for something that comes in. So if you have a stray dog that comes in that hasn't been vaccinated, it comes down with a disease, and then, you know what I'm saying? It makes more sense. We have to look out for our wildlife at this point. So if we can exclude it, and then if somebody comes down and they have, you know, better facility to handle something like that, then I think we approach it there. But just to say, yes, you can have a rescue. I don't think we should.
I do think there is one existing currently in Killingwood. That's
Okay.
for birds of prey. So again, there's precedent. We can look into it and see what the implications are and if there's additional regulation. But I think that this one, as written, addresses, our needs at present. And I think it'll clarify a lot of things. I think there's a lot of uses that are defined in this new language of uses that we kind of have existing in Deep River already, but without explicit regulation or definition. So that's all I'll say for now.
Yeah, I agree.
Anybody else? If not,
Tony, if I could,
fire away.
just someone, Marion had mentioned the acronym a little bit lower in the reg.
Yes, that's right.
RR, whatever it is, RR.
RRARC.
Or C, yeah.
I think that was, I think these regulations were based on a model from a different locality. And I can't find that reference being, some sort of oversight body for animals. I believe the reference probably should be changed to the, relevant public health or consumer protection department.
Right. Would it be perhaps we say authority having jurisdiction?
Yes.
I think that's the intent here is that if there are regulations, in regard to facilities and handling animals, et cetera, that the requirement for the zoning permit is adherence to those other regulations. It's just a reference regulation. So rather than being explicit to one, we say any and all authorities having jurisdiction over.
Right. I think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay. So still.
So can we make that amendment? I mean, without this having been.
Right. Yeah. No, you could motion to approve with that amendment.
Yep.
Is that what you just did, Alan?
I believe I did.
Okay. Looking for a second.
I'll second that.
Stan?
Stan.
All right, Chris? No, Chris?
I apologize. Yes.
No, no worries. And Marion?
Yes.
All right. Motion passed. On to text amendment application, addition to section 4.2.1, allowing planning and zoning commission to identify and allow substantially similar uses. Applicant Deep River Planning and Zoning.
Could I chime in real quick for Robert Galbraith? I just had a quick question.
Nope, this is closed.
No?
now. All right, sorry about that, guys. So discussion, I know we went through this a bit. If not,
Yeah.
motion.
Do you want a motion to approve so we can discuss?
Yep.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you. Looking for a second?
I'll second on discussion.
Thank you.
Stan.
All right, discussion?
So I guess this is Stan. I'll start. So I was alternate last meeting and didn't pipe up on any of this when we were discussing it. I do feel a little that I do not like that wording because it can open up a can of worms in different parts. As our letter said, I kind of agree with that we had today, that you sent in the email. I think for some things, yes, it could be substantially similar, but it's a judgment. And I think we need to be more black and white and not leave it in a gray area of any sort. And if something does arise in the gray area, then we go through the proper steps, just like with the animal facility.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm going to say I agree with it the way it's written. I understand what the letter said. And I'm also, I like I said, I've been in planning for 25 years, zoning and wetlands, and it's almost impossible to anticipate every single use. It seems so easy, but it was, again, like that furniture discussion. I think because this is still via a special permit, it's not going to be a whim. I think people will take it seriously. But on the other hand, it could make an applicant just a little bit easier going through the process, especially if they come in, for an informal review. So I think there's enough of in the procedure that it's not going to be abused.
I was gonna say, I tend to lean that way too, only because the special permit part is in there. So it would have to go back to a public, even if we think it's close, it still has to go to a public hearing. So.
Aaron, I agree with you 100% on this one. I understand the concerns and the potential for interpretation, but the commission has a responsibility to address the gray area and to interpret and to modify regulations when appropriate to make it explicit, but to also understand nuances. Because, for instance, with a farm facility, we permit a riding facility, but if somebody came in with a therapeutic riding proposal, or they wanted to have donkeys instead of horses, we would understand that these are basically the same types of facilities, and we don't want to penalize somebody with a very valid use that just wasn't anticipated because it's innovative or it's nuanced, but that is, essentially in compliance with our regulations. So I think we need to remain flexible in that regard in changing times, but we also have a duty to the public to be diligent to the intent of, to the intended restrictions. So again, the fact that it's by special permit, and that's what makes this doable for me, is that anything that would be permitted would be by special permit, which allows the public to weigh in, and this makes it a public forum. It's not something that's going to be really slipped in with a broad interpretation. So I'm very much in favor of this regulation change, and very sensitive to the concerns that have been raised.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, think about how much deliberation has been going over just whether or not we would take this under consideration and how we are taking this under consideration, let alone an actual instance of us going to public hearing on a matter.
Right.
I think that's what the commission's job is. And also we are here to serve the public as well. And this helps for, I know the concern was that it mucks up the water and it's not black and white, but at the same token, it is much easier for someone to get something in front of us, to have the conversation when it is somewhat subjective. So I think this allows for a bigger, broader conversation for things that will benefit the town, if we all feel like it's in the best of the town's interest. So yeah, the public hearing is the gotcha for me to say, yes, I don't see an issue with this. It's not like we're just making decisions without a forum that the public can be heard.
I think this also gives the opportunity for an applicant to present an application with clarity and with asking permission, as opposed to asking forgiveness. Because I think there's been many instances of businesses going in or uses going in that may not have been characterized correctly, and after the fact you realize that it was a little bit of a stretch of the regulation, and then you're faced with enforcement, which is far more difficult than addressing the issues, the nuances, the special, special considerations in the interpretation that I think that this would allow.
Right? Somebody want to add or elaborate? If not, there's a motion on the floor to approve. Does anybody want to make an amendment, or if not, I'm just gonna do the roll call. Marion, it was you who put it forward and Stan was seconded, is that right? I thought so, all right. Chris?
Yes, I'm for approving. Text amendment.
Alan?
Yes.
Marion, I'm assuming because you made the motion, you're yes, but I gotta double check.
Well, I think she made the motion.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I forgot I muted myself.
They still need to be asked if they're in favor or not. Because I think the intent of the motion was to be able to discuss it, so.
Okay. Stan?
Yes, only because of the special permit.
Okay. All right. Motion passes. Let's see. We are on to building and demolition ordinance. And I think that went to the selectmen. Gonna double check with John.
Yeah, I think that's before them.
Okay, so we don't have anything yet.
I haven't heard anything.
Commission bylaws. So, of course, I didn't put them on the screen, but I thought the last time we went through this, we were in
So we've
favor.
received some comment from a couple of the commissioners. I don't know if we've gotten to send this to our attorney yet. Our attorney has been tied up with a couple of court things, and asked if he could punt on it a little for a little bit, but we'll circle back with him.
Okay. All right. With that,
Can I? This is one of the things that confuses me with all this process. I mean, I put some time at looking at this, but there's a lot of language in some of these bylaws that I think as a group we should have conversations about. Are we going to do that? Or are we waiting for a lawyer to chime in who, when last time we were led in a bad direction from a lawyer? I don't know. This process seems where like touch and go, gets hot and cold. I think as a group, if we're coming up with bylaws that define how we're running this commission, we should all give some input as to the content that's in it. I mean,
so
I don't know.
I think my best guess at this is we were going to take I'm going to give the wrong town, but let's just call it Windsor. So we took their bylaws, said they fit very well. We made some corrections, send it to the attorney. The attorney is going to send it back to us again, and then we'll have a discussion on it. If there's, my opinion is if there's a huge change, we address it right then. If there's a bunch of little stuff, we could still adopt and change, at the next meeting. If you see something, if we haven't read it all, and 3 meetings away, you go, you know what, there's a part in there, I hate it, we got to change it. We can still do that. But at the moment, we don't have any bylaws, and that's,
No, I understand. I understand the urgency. It's just, yeah, I understand the urgency. It's just like there are things that repeatedly come up, just for our commission and like how we handle certain items. Like meeting minutes is something that we always kind of discuss as far as when they're distributed, how they're distributed. Same thing with applicant information. These are the kinds of things that I think that should probably make their way in there, just so that we all understand as commissioners what the expectations are. And other things that have been, that come up. It took a while for us to just understand how we want to loop in the audience, the public, conversation portion of this in our agenda. I mean, even as of this year, we moved that around a little bit, and how we approach, when people speak and how we do that. So I don't know. Again, it's one of those things that it's our opportunity to just like, when we put it down, we get it in there. it's just gonna sit there for a while, I can imagine before we like say, hey, you know what, we can address it via bylaws. It just to push it through because we don't have one, I think is maybe not the best
I get
approach.
it. I understand there, but I mean, again, right now we don't have anything to fall back on. So right now, like if we did pass them, we could go, all right, in section B, it does says, says that we can address bylaws at every meeting. This is the way the agenda should be set, that kind of thing. So right now, there's nothing to fall back on to say that.
Okay, so like you're saying, once the lawyer comes back and says there's nothing egregious in here, we'll approve those bylaws and then see to them as the situations arise that we need to kind of address some of the content.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Reports. CEO. Got something good?
What's that?
You got anything good?
Well, there's, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we've been dealing with over the last month ended up on the agenda, talking with different applicants and different issues. The one thing I would catch the commission up on is that there has been a number of legislative proposals that were dealt with this past week. There was a public hearing that went an actual 24 hours of public hearing before the Planning and Development Commission, or Planning and Development Committee of the state legislature. And a number of those proposals were basically surrounding the so-called Desegregate Connecticut agenda, which proposes to do a number of things, only some of which would affect Deep River by virtue of its small size. It's less than 7,500 people, and it has no fixed transit stations. So a lot of the proposals for multifamily densities and mixed-use densities in the area of transit would obviously not apply to Deep River, but it would, if passed, it was extraordinarily controversial, but also very, very supported, would mandate as of right accessory apartments and throughout in all residential districts in town. And if Deep River was deemed to have a sort of a concentrated downtown area, which I think probably Main Street would be considered, then some smaller scale multifamily, I think 1 through 4 unit, in a certain amount of that area would be considered as of right. However, I think if you look at the Main Street area in Deep River, with some of the Piano Works and Kirtland Commons and some of the other, there already is a great deal of multifamily already there. So it's possible that, again, this proposed statute might not really affect Deep River at all, but it did have a great deal of attention paid to it. And if anyone has any questions about those specific statutes, I would, the desegregate one is Senate Bill 1024-1024. People can sort of check that out and the extraordinary amount of testimony that was submitted in association with that. So Mike and I have both been very involved with those discussions, both with our professional associations and at the state legislature. So I'm happy to have conversations with anyone that has specific questions.
John, can you just give the bill number again? You said 1024 and
yes.
then
No,
something.
I instead of saying 1024, I then also said 1024, just so people got it.
Okay.
It's Senate Bill 1024.
Okay.
Is the desegregate. There is another interesting one, which is considered a fair share housing allocation based on a model in New Jersey. That's House Bill 6611, which is which would make every town in the state responsible for a certain amount of fair housing and affordable housing based on a fairly complicated formula that takes into account infrastructure and schools and business and employment opportunities and things like that. So again, I don't know if that one has much of a chance of passage, but there was a lot of attention paid to that one as well. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on with housing and zoning at the state legislature. We'll see in the next few weeks how that all shakes out.
I was just gonna throw one more thing, because I have some of it here in front of me. So it's 1024. Sorry, training, accessory dwelling units. It's also 1027.
1027 is that has a couple of components of it. One of the other components of the desegregate agenda,
Yeah.
and a couple of others, is mandatory land use training for all commissioners, which is something that has never been in place before, other than wetlands commissioners. Or at least one wetlands commissioner is required to have gone through the DEP training, but no such training requirement is required for planning and zoning, except if this passes. And then you would be required to receive, I think, something between 4 and 6 hours of land use training. Some of that would be, basic rules and regulations. Some of it would be specifically about affordable housing. And there was a lot of testimony on both sides of that one as well. And I know some of you commissioners, just by way of concluding my report, and maybe ceding the floor to some other folks that may have been there. Senator Needleman did host a forum about some of these land use issues, I think last week, where he invited all the land use commissioners from the towns in his district to kind of share thoughts. And I think Bruce was there. I don't know if anyone else from Deep River was there.
I was there too.
And Marion, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. You got a little reunion with Norm there.
Yeah. Hey, he didn't want to let you talk for some reason.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he gets enough of me.
Tony wasn't here, and then you said John's here, and they're like, no, we don't want to hear from John.
Yeah, no, Norm hears enough from me.
So I did show up to that, by the way. I was also working at the same time, so I couldn't chime in. But Marion or Sam, if you guys have anything to
There was
add?
a lot of discussion about the affordable housing through all of the towns. And I think the one thing that people seem to agree on is that a lot of the smaller towns did have affordable housing, but it wasn't set in a deed that it had to be affordable. It was just affordable by the general process, retail process. So that was an issue that a lot of people had. And not very many other. I mean, that seemed to take up most of it, actually, except for Marilyn Mosel. And I can't remember if she Westbrook.
She's Westbrook.
Had just issues with the legal notices and having to be in a newspaper of substantial circulation, which if you don't advertise right, then technically you have at least a year to appeal a decision, and that can be problematical. So.
Right.
Yeah, brought up with the technology error.
Yeah. All right. John, anything else? Are you good?
I think I'm good unless anyone has additional questions.
Okay. I haven't seen anything from the attorney, engineer, regs committee. I mean, we'll see what happens if we do the town meeting for the recreational use. Chairman, sorry guys, I got nothing. Budget, nothing that I know of.
What's the report, the latest on? I mean, you did appear before the Board of Finance, right?
Oh yeah. Yes, you're right. I blindsided the Board of Finance with request. Inside joke. So we did present looking for funds to redo our zoning regulations and the plan of conservation development. So we're looking for an end game with that of 2024, 2025 for the POCD. I don't think we have anything from the Board of Finance yet, but those are the things that are in front of them at the moment. The slight discussion was maybe to break up the zoning regulations into doing it over a couple of years. So it's not a big, huge number in front of them right now. I know there's a ton of other stuff on their budget. There's a fire truck and a million other things. So, but don't have solid information yet. That's it for budget. Payment of bills. Nancy was kind enough to send a bill somewhere in my list of stuff here. Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies, membership dues of $110. Anybody, John, you want to throw out what we're looking at here? I'm assuming
So this is, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies. It is, basically what you guys get from this is that sort of tan 4-page little newsletter a couple of times a year that indicates that, sort of gives a overview of some recent court cases and things like that. That's essentially what it is. It's really a one-man show. It's basically he's operated out of Steve Burns' office. He's a land use attorney, and then he has an annual, meeting or banquet. Occasionally he has some interesting stuff in there. I think if we're diligent, we also get updates from, now that we're using Halloran Sage. Halloran Sage does regular updates, and that would come just because we're clients.
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to tell you what to do. If this were my bill, I wouldn't pay it. But
well, that's what I was going to ask you is if we're using Halloran Sage, they're already updating us. And this is just a duplicate of what we're already getting, correct? Basically.
In my opinion.
Okay. All right.
So again, this is something that we've requested before, and so we've got this bill we get every year, or
Yeah.
what do we request in such that we're receiving a bill? I just
Right.
don't-
I think at some point I think it's probably for the coming year. If you want to, it's not something, this is not like he's provided the service and now asking for payment. I think this is to
Yeah, this is
continue.
for the upcoming, from this year moving forward.
Yep.
If you want to continue.
Right.
we were a member previous.
You have been members historically.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with John on this one. Why spend the money if you don't have to?
I mean, do you recall any information that you've learned from it?
I don't remember getting one through COVID, to be honest with you, but I can double check. I do remember them from the previous year. But I can't remember anything off the top of my head. But
In that time, I think we've been with the commission maybe 8 or 9 months now. I think I've seen one newsletter, and I think we actually scanned it to you.
Yes.
But it's been a while.
Yeah.
There was one about maybe a few months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, I think I scanned.
Yep.
You guys.
Yeah, I think we did, where, am I muted? We did get one because I remember printing it out. And it, I don't know how many pages. It's like 3 pages. This one.
I have no objection to continuing the membership. If somebody speaks up and says, yeah, the information has been valuable to me in the past, and I would like to keep it. But absent an individual that is, wants
I think
to do that information, I'd say maybe we let this one expire.
Right.
I was going to say, I think sometimes it's valid for someone to collect all of the land use decisions. And so that's interesting. Again, if Halloran and Sage are going to do that, then I don't think we would need it. But I think it depends on the attorney and what they're doing. I mean, I don't remember ever, when I was in Essex, I don't remember David Royston actually doing this. But
Yeah, well, I actually just yesterday, I believe, in another town that I work for that Halloran Sage serves, they sent an update on a Connecticut Supreme Court case regarding freedom of information. So they send legal briefs, and I can actually, I'll send you guys a copy of that one if you want from Halloran Sage. I think you guys are probably not on their email list yet, so we need to do that.
can I throw something else out there, John? The thing that happens in Middletown at the school there, the one that they do every year?
At Wesleyan, yeah.
Yeah, the Wesleyan, thank you, the Wesleyan convention.
That training happened at the beginning of March this year, virtually, obviously.
Right. I actually have the booklet. If anybody's interested, I can make you a copy. It has all the land use stuff that's happened that's relevant, and it has changed over the last year. It's pretty big, but if you want it, I'll make the time to get you a copy.
What I think would be valuable to us is more opportunities for that, for the continuing education in that sort of process. I think that we've got a CEO which is very much in the fold of these issues, and will bring that to the commission when there are relevant issues that we need to be aware of. So I'd be in favor of perhaps letting this membership expire and continue to look for opportunities for the continuing education. Now, I would have liked to have participated in one earlier in March, but unfortunately I was unavailable. So if there's more opportunities like that, keep us abreast and keep the money in the coffers for that.
Yeah, I think that training is far more valuable than these newsletters, frankly.
Right.
And I actually just had a conversation this evening with Rich Roberts, Attorney Roberts, who's with Halloran and Sage, about the recordings from that Connecticut bar training, and he believes they'll be available pretty soon. They're not available yet, but if those recordings become available, we'd be happy to certainly disseminate them.
There's definitely good info in there for if anybody was interested. Well, so that would cover some of the commissioner training. I am looking into doing some more continuing ed. I'll get back to you on that. I don't have anything tonight.
If I make a motion to not pay this bill.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just gonna, yeah. Do we actually have to make a motion?
I don't think you need a motion.
Not really.
No, if you take no action will be taken.
Right. So it's not really a bill, so I guess we're just gonna ignore it. Unless you want to make the motion. Nope. All right.
No commotion here.
Okay. So with that, we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Wait, Tony, it's Chris.
Yeah, shoot.
I didn't want to do this during new business because I didn't think it was relevant. But so I know I spoke with you earlier this week, but I wanted to kind of let the rest of the commission know. My wife is expecting our third child. We're very excited. But yeah, and I think I'm gonna probably step down from the commission just so that I can, I basically what I've determined is that I'm not able to give my 110% with everything going on right now in my life, and I think the town deserves more than that. So what I'm thinking is that I can stay on for the next few months until an adequate replacement is found. But I just want to let you all know my intent, and then when the time's right, I can submit the letter and we can go through that process. I just wanted to give you guys all a heads up that that's my intention right now. If work gets really light for some reason and I have extra time in my hands that I can invest in this commission, maybe I'll change my mind. But for the time being, I think we should all, if you know people that are interested in the Planning and Zoning Commission that would be a good fit. I know we have some vacancies already, so I'm not trying to put the commission out by any means. So I will stay on board as long as needed. But once a viable replacement is found, I was going to bow out and just take care of what I got to do on my end for my personal life. So I just wanted to let everybody know, and then you and I can just talk about when and if there's someone to fill this vacancy, what the next steps are.
Okay. I mean, you're gonna be missed, but I understand. Family comes first. Yeah. So we'll keep an eye out. And with that,
I make a motion to adjourn.
There you go. Looking for a second. Everybody wants to stay, huh?
Yeah, I'll
So
second.
moved.
Okay, second. Let's see, Alan
Yes.
and Stan.
Yes.
All right, guys, thank you, and everybody have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, goodbye. Where's Leaf?